Andrea Johnson, Management 6331, International HR Management, Country of Singapore. Overview of Singapore. Singapore is part of the Federation of Malaya, but in 1965, the country separated from Malaysia due to political differences. Singapore government is made up of members that are elected on a 5-year basis, and the elected head of state is the president. The People's Action Party came into power in 1959, which led to the robust development of Singapore. Singapore has a diverse population made up of 75% Chinese and the other 25% of Malays and Indians that live in peace and harmony and mirror the country's motto, "One nation, one people, one Singapore." The country has had a lot of economic growth in the past, putting pressure on housing, health, and transport services. Singapore has a skilled industry and human resource base and has an efficient administration structure that delivers public services. There has also been resistance to the import of skilled and professional workers from other nations. Overview of Singapore's national culture. The government has implemented policies to create a peaceful and harmonious republic. The concept of race is not frowned upon and embedded in identity cards to promote ethnicity. Religion is not a state subject, and leaders of religious groups are not allowed to comment on politics. Due to the diverse population, various religions are prevalent, such as Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Jews, and Confucianism, just to name a few. But all religions are celebrated by the population in the form of festivals, making Singapore a festive country all year round. Food adds to the unique culture of Singapore, with Chinese, Indonesian, Indian, and Malay food widely available. Singapore has a high growth economy and attracts the best in talent and skilled professionals from around the world. The highly educated population is creating the new Singapore. Overview of business climate. As a country, Singapore is a well-developed economy and has an outward-focused development strategy. It is a AAA rated country with assets in the US dollars of $1.9 trillion. This is largely possible because of its strong political, legal, and judicial environments. It has become a hub in the region for many global companies due to its unique geographical location between the West and the East. It has a stable political environment with strong backing of the judicial process. Many international institutions have named it as the best for business growth, and it has gained that reputation in the global market. Many global companies see it as an ideal country to set up bases to penetrate Asian markets or invest in Asia. The government has strong focus on law and has zero tolerance for corruption and bribery. Legal and judicial processes are the foundations of trust in the Singapore economy. Although the country began with humble beginnings as a trading center, it has now become one of the most important trading hubs in Asia. Singapore has evolved from a labor services model to a value-added product and services model in pharmaceuticals, financial, and business services. It is now seeking new areas of growth in robotics, safety and security, and natural resources. It has created a favorable environment for entrepreneurs to flourish. The policies in Singapore offer many protections to intellectual property and rights. It is one of the top 10 countries in terms of innovation and intellectual property. It has shown good growth due to sound macroeconomic policies, open market-oriented development, and pro-business regulatory environment. In terms of talent and workforce, the country has a strong talent base. The diverse workforce is known for productivity, technical skills, and attitude. The relationship between management and labor is sound, and more than half of the workforce has a tertiary education. The government plays a key role in the development of talent. It supports immigration based on the needs of the economy and also invests in education needs of the population for continuous growth. It also has an attractive tax environment with many benefits for citizens and corporate. Individual taxes are at a maximum of 22%, while corporate taxes are at 17%. Non-residents are taxed on employment income at 15%. The government also offers many corporate incentives for trading, development, and research activities. Today, Singapore has developed as a first world economy from its third world beginnings. It is one of the smallest city-states, but has the best infrastructure and quality of life in Asia. Business thrives in a corruption-free environment, which is provided by Singapore. According to the Swedish Business Climate Survey for Singapore, there is a positive view about the climate in Singapore. Many Swedish companies see the business in Singapore as good or excellent. Very few mention that the climate is poor or terrible. These differences in perception could be due to sectorial focus, and in general, the financial sectors show the maximum satisfaction in business climate measures. The country is focused on knowledge and innovation in the 21st century. Many of the activities involving high tech and research is part of the economic development strategy. According to the OECD, the country has undertaken many reforms that have made it the hub of the global economy. There is a major rethink in terms of immigration policy. There is some restriction on entry conditions for new immigrants. On the other hand, the country is opening its arms to foreign entrepreneurs. The government seeks investments and talents from the global market pool. In another focus area, the government has also encouraged business and industry to update their methods of production and use of technology. This is especially seen in the small and medium-sized enterprises sector, also known as SMEs. The government has increased its support for the sector since these firms employ more than 70% of the workforce. It has provided many incentives to SMEs for research and development. A combination of public and private expenditure in research and development has made Singapore one of the most exemplary research and development centers globally. The new focus on SMEs will increase their overall contribution to the gross domestic product of Singapore. This will also ensure sustained level of employment generation. The SMEs policy shift has led to a rise in population, which helps the SMEs in service industries. In summary, one can safely say that Singapore and its robust business climate will sustain over the years. HR-related challenges for MNCs in Singapore. The concept of globalized business is not new. HR leaders who are faced with global strategic alignments face different challenges with respective globalization or international expansion. Many companies have moved from a domestic focus to a global focus, expanding operations to countries such as Singapore. However, many companies have a domestic and global focus. This leads to creating equal strategic weight on global and domestic markets. HR faces many challenges in these scenarios. One is to select and move the right people around the world. A second is to ensure that the selected person is fit for the role from a leadership and cultural standpoint. Processes of performance measurements, creating a relevant pipeline of the right skilled people, taking care of cultural alignments for employees and their families, managing the risk of failure are all important challenges to be fixed. In addition, global compensation systems are different from local and domestic workforces. This additionally creates pressures on motivational levels between leaders at the same level, but with global headquarters or local pedigrees. HR teams have to build global competencies. Lack of adequate HR skills, which are required for global corporations, can lead to risks and losses. It can also hamper the strategic expansion plans of the company. Therefore, before deciding on international assignments and relocations, the HR teams have to be competent and ready to handle the myriad of issues they will encounter. As far as Singapore is concerned, the local employment laws are very employer-friendly. This was done to mainly attract global corporations to set up offices and invest in the country. But there is an increasing focus on domestic employee rights and protection in the last decade. Policies pertaining to maternity and paternity leave and benefits have been added. Laws which used to only protect blue-collar workers have now been extended to junior officers and workers below a certain salary limit. In addition, the country is witnessing an increase in unionization. Many professionals and managers are now part of unions and are represented by unions. HR managers have to therefore seek consensus on expatriate-related policies that they would implement. There is also a restriction on the number of foreign employees. This has resulted in manpower shortages in some industries. In Singapore, it is mandatory to advertise professional jobs to Singaporeans for at least 14 days before allowing such jobs to be filled by foreign professionals, with certain exceptions. The local talent pool has evolved, and the new digital generation employees seek many new and different benefit packages as compared to older workers. This adds to HR challenges related to mobility, relocation packages, and compensation parity among local and global leaders. There is a trend of short-term mobility rather than long-term. This shift is expected to take place sooner rather than later. In such short-term assignments, leaders or executives spend around 6 months in Singapore to train people and set up local operations. Once that is completed, they move back to their local headquarters. However, such short-term assignments also have legal and immigration complications. HR managers have to account for strong compliance to local laws related to people movement and immigration. Local compliance laws are constantly being changed and updated. This puts more pressure on HR teams to collaborate with legal teams on an ongoing basis to avoid the risk of non-compliance, which leads to a loss of reputation and punitive measures. Another key area which is of concern to HR managers is the local culture and its adaptation by foreign executives. U.S. and Asian customs and behaviors are vastly different. HR teams have to incorporate adequate training processes for expatriates. In Singapore, there is greater importance to group behaviors and patient listening. The environment in business is not based on individualism as it is in Western markets. There is less propensity of risk-taking in Singapore. Western managers are seen to be more assertive as compared to Asians. Since value systems and behaviors are different, the leaders have to ensure that they are attuned to these cultural nuances in Singapore. Another behavioral aspect is gift-taking or a bribe. Although it is taboo in Singapore, many Asian nations take it for granted. Cross-cultural awareness, global strategy and alignment, local talent identification, and compliance are the key areas for international human resource management to focus on. Global operations are critical and necessary for growth, but local laws and regulations, culture, customs, and HR-related challenges such as compensation, training, performance management, family alignment are all equally important. Organizations which employ a robust expatriate strategy should be able to manage risk and reduce it to a great extent. Foreign managers must be given clear objectives and role definitions. Long or short-term assignments in Singapore can be decided based on strategic needs of the organization.